Hello, my name is Brendan O'Farrell. I'm the president and founding partner of DCN Diagnostics.
And I'm Pat Vaughan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at DCN, and I run all our development programs.
So there are two paradigms by which testing is done, right? So tests either take a sample from a patient, send it to a clinical laboratory, generate a result and send it back to the patient, or a sample is taken and the test is done at the point of sampling. There's a lot of discussion right now around how fast tests are, right? Is it 10 minutes? Is it an hour? Is it 4 or 5 hours? And right now we're operating primarily in a paradigm where a sample is taken and sent to a clinical laboratory for testing. The time to result in that circumstance is actually not the critical thing. The time to take the sample, get it to the laboratory, get the results validated and back to the physician, it becomes the important thing. So whether the test run at the laboratory is 10 minutes or an hour is largely irrelevant. When we're talking about point of need testing or point of care testing, we're taking a sample while the patient is still with us, we're running the test, we're generating the result. That's really where the discussion around speed of tests becomes important. And a technology like lateral flow is really aimed at ease of use, speed of result generation, and generating quality results at the point of need. And these tests have been deployed for decades in enormous numbers of applications and generate very high fidelity results within sometimes as fast as 3 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, but it can all be done while the patient is still present. And that's the important thing in this kind of a situation, that we do not lose control of the patient. If somebody is asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, they don't continue to spread the virus.
Yeah, no, I think there's huge advantage to the lateral flow or rapid diagnostic testing. The fact that you can get that answer within 10 to 15 minutes, that means the patient stays in the presence of the medical practitioners and they can be triaged immediately. So if they do come up positive, they can be immediately given instructions to self-quarantine. So rather than with the laboratory tests, those people are going to go home. They're going to keep interacting with other people for the next day, probably, maybe for another 24 hours before they get that test. And now they may be quarantined, but they've had 24 hours to potentially infect other people. So,
or sometimes 2 to 5 days.
Or 2 to 5 days, absolutely, yeah. So whereas with rapid testing, with lateral flow tests, if you get an answer on the spot in 10 minutes, that's going to hugely improve. People talk about flattening the curve. Well, this is going to be a huge improvement to that response.